there, thank you for joining me on FernCrafts. I'm Christine and I welcome you to my channel. Today I wanted to do a video on, it's been a long time since I've done a Phalenopsis video. Besides the one I showed you on the previous video where I had purchased these two Phalenopsis from the grocery store, and yeah, the flower is now faded and off, and so I thought I would just do a repotting of this, or actually just to unpot the orchid. I didn't really plan the video, so what I've done is gone ahead and just given it a good soak to wet the roots. This is the pot that it came in, and it is a nice pot that I could reuse, so it doesn't have any drainage holes in it, so it'll be a nice container for another orchid. So that I'm going to put aside. And it usually these orchids, when you get them, are in these plastic pots, and so they're not the best environment for the orchid because they're packed in with sphagnum moss, and as you can see, most of the roots are dead. So I don't know how many good roots are in there, and so that would be a very good reason to take it out of the pot and just cut away all of the dead material so that it'll give the orchid a good chance to grow in. And just for comparison, to show you, this is the other orchid and it's still in bloom and it's doing really well. And when I water that orchid, it's got the nice green roots. And I just wanted to show you that. So it's got nice healthy root system. What I should have done, I guess, was when I purchased that orchid is to take a peek at the inside of the pot. But I do like a challenge and try and rescue an orchid, and that was the only yellow Phalenopsis there. So I was going to pick it up either way. So there you go. So once you water the roots turn green, and that shows that they're nice and healthy. So let's move on with it. The spike, as I've shown before, I believe it was my very first video, or maybe the second, where I had shown where to cut the spike on a Phalenopsis. So once the flowers are done, don't throw the orchid. It's still a good orchid and it will rebloom. This is for an absolute beginner, I would say. But what you can do is even just leave the spike on, and I can see that the spike is starting to maybe die back a little bit. So I've left it for now, but the rule of thumb that I've heard is that it's 2 nodes up. So this is the first node and this would be the second. I wouldn't really count that. So first and second, and then to make a cut, a diagonal cut right here. But what I'm going to do is kind of wait and see how far back it's going to die and then cut it there after. So I'll give it about a, I want to know if this is really going to die back or not. But yes, it does rebloom on the same spike, and it's just a lot easier for the orchid rather than having to put out a spike all the way from the base of the orchid. So here it is. What I will be using today is just a vase that I picked up from the dollar store, and I've given it a good wash just in case there was any dust in it or anything. And these clay beads that I have, I've been using them a lot lately. I have mixed feelings about them, and I think it really depends on what orchid you are putting in with them. Because if it's something that needs a lot of moisture, it does work if you can give it like a semi-water culture, which is what I'm going to be doing here, having the beads in there, having a little bit of water. But if it is something that requires stability, like a Cattleya, which is usually top heavy, I find that the clay beads are not very good because they move around and the orchid starts to move and is not able to put out the roots. So it really depends on what orchid you're using this media with, I would say, at least for my environment. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take out this orchid from this plastic pot, tear away all the sphagnum moss, and I will give it a good rinse and come back to you and show you what's there. Okay, so I've given it a good wash, and you can see that most of the roots are gone. There is absolutely no good roots on this side, and just the one root that's not looking that great on the other side, and that's this one here. But it is firm all the way to the bottom, so at least I have the one root. And something I wanted to show you was that sometimes the roots could be partially dead, but if it's firm on the top, or if there's a part that's firm, leave that root, because that means what it does is it branches out from the roots as well. So like you can see, there's a little branch on this side. It will branch out, so I'm going to leave that part of it and just peel away the bottom here. But before I do anything to cut or use any instrument on the orchid, it's very good to sterilize your instruments and even the orchid. So I just use like hydrogen peroxide and give it a good spray all the way around. And my scissors have been sprayed as well. So I'm just gonna go off camera right now and cut away all the dead roots and just leave that one root that's good. Alright, so I have now cleaned away all of the dead roots, and as you can see, I'm very confused about this one. So it was partly dead on top, and then it has a nice firm root on the bottom. So this one, I'm just going to leave it for now, and this is a good root as well, and it's branched out here, although the end of it is dead. I'm going to leave it for now. And usually what I would say is dust all of this with cinnamon, you know, so that the cuts heal. But these are all dead anyways. There's nothing there to heal. And putting cinnamon on this part of the bottom of the crown is really going to stop roots from growing, because it does inhibit root growth. So you've got to be careful about that too. So in this case, I'm going to make a call and just say that I am leaving it as it is, giving it a good wash, and getting another spray with hydrogen peroxide, and it should be good to go now. When you are washing the orchid, be very careful not to let water go into the crown, because if it does, it's going to rot and there's no saving the orchid then. So what I always do with these kind of monopedial orchids, where it grows from the one center stem, is to wash them upside down, so that even if some of the water gets into the crown, it drains off. Just a little tip for you. Okay, so to start off with, I'm just going to use my hands here because these clay beads are washed, and put in a little. There are no roots there for me to really worry about it sitting straight or anything like that. But I want the orchid to sit on some clay beads, or at least be able to get some of the moisture from it. So I'm just going to try and sit the orchid into the vase here just to see how far down it's going to go, and then sort of drop the beads around it, and I might have to put some more in. So let me just do that, fill it all the way around. It is noisy, and I'll come back to you. Okay guys, so there it is. I've potted it up, and I brought up the clay beads just to the crown of the orchid and not covering it. So that's not a good root. It's just green, that's all. But we'll see. And what I did was to place the good root the outside of the container, just so that I can see it. If it starts to die, then it's not doing well, right? But hopefully there will be some new roots here. And what I will do is just, I'm not going to water it today because there is enough moisture in there with all of the beads being wet, and you know, the vase, the container being wet as well. But maybe later, when I see that they are starting to dry, I will just top it up with a little bit of water just on the bottom, maybe about an inch high. That's nowhere near these roots. And I find that what that does is it draws the roots down towards the container, towards the water, and it gives good stability to the orchids. So this is just one way of growing the Phalenopsis. When I got the Phalenopsis, it was with the idea that I would be able to mount the orchid, because I do want to try mounting the Phalenopsis, and I've seen that others who have done it, the Phalenopsis does really, really well. So that would be something that I will be doing maybe later once the orchid is established, but it needs some roots right now, and this would be the best thing to give it is moisture, but not overly water it. It does not like to be wet for too long. So moisture, constant moisture, and you can give the Phalenopsis bright light, and it does very well. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you are new to orchids, this is a great one to start with, so do try it out and let me know. Post your comments down below, and I will be happy to help you with any questions that you have. If you haven't done so already, do subscribe, and you can hit that little notification bell to be the first to know when I upload a video. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, enjoy your orchids. Bye bye.